Janelle, I had Human Rights Code, AODA, and Bill C-81 that protected me. But, the Human Rights Code says that when a person with disability requests disability accommodation, the test is undue hardship. Now, I have experienced it where I requested disability accommodation, taking the proper process as guided like organizations like the Human Rights Legal Support, Arch Disability Law Center, and those organizations were equipped to help support the community as well as other lawyers. And being someone who's was an advisor to mayor and council and an accessibility advocate, I created the accessibility conference that's coming up in December, and yet I wasn't afforded my legal right to disability accommodation under those laws that I needed as per my doctor as a person with a disability. In the same process, a non-Black individual requested disability accommodation multiple times, and that person was given accommodation without any medical information several times. Why do you think, as a Black woman with a disability, we are discredited, mistreated, or rights are violated wrongfully without care?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying, that I'm sorry that you had these experiences that let you know that you were different, right? Those things should absolutely not happen. And you shouldn't be treated differently precisely because you're Black and a woman or person with a disability, right? The Accessibility Directorate of Ontario is there to support organizations on how to comply with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act and on how to accommodate employees effectively at work. And it's awful when we can see disparities in our treatment. We know instinctively when, something's done for someone else, it's not being done for us. Mm-hmm. And I talk about the ways that Black women are doubly marginalized and oppressed on my YouTube series, Twice as Hard. And it just reminds me of Malcolm X's statement that he once said, that the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman, and the most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And I feel like that quote can be applied to Black women across the Americas. Mm-hmm. Those issues are only compounded when you add other marginalized identities, like having a disability, to our Blackness and our womanhood. And our pain is just definitely not seen as equal in comparison to women of other races. We're dehumanized in many ways. And this behavior is just normalized, right? It shows up daily as we're just going about our lives. People are just not focusing on fairness. They're not asking, what did I do last week or last year to this person who's not racialized that I should absolutely apply in this situation to be even-handed and fair dealing, right? Why is this situation similar or different that I'm encountering? And how do I ensure that I'm making the right decision and not bringing my personal biases into play, right? If people would just take a moment to stop, reflect, and consider their actions, most people want to be fair and just, then they'll be able to make those right decisions.
Yes. Janelle, if a person requests disability accommodation, the Human Rights Code and the AODA, is that company or entity you request disability accommodation from entitled to have you sign over your rights to them so that they can speak directly to your medical doctor and have access to your medical records as a person with a disability?
No, absolutely not, right? You can refuse to get consent for the collection, use, or disclosure of your personal health information under the Personal Health and Information Protection Act at any time, right? Express consent is required, either verbally and in writing, to the custodian of that personal health information to disclose it to a person or an organization like your employer or your insurance company that's not a custodian. So you can expressly withhold or refuse to give your consent at your discretion.